morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Revolution. Live, raw, and uncut, as you can see, and we're all together today. We're all together, and we're in Cardiff. We're having a little chuckle here to ourselves because just before going live, I just said, "What's today's topic?" I actually know what today's topic is. It was just a funny moment, and that's why you can see us laughing. So today is part 2 of understanding your relationships, and 2 weeks ago we touched on we shared with you what attachment styles are. Kelly very took us through. Actually, it was a beautiful piece around the different attachment styles. And today it's more about exploring that between us and inviting you in as well to try and start to understand what attachment style you might have had in the past, where you are right now, how it affects your relationships, how you show up in different ways, in different environments. So for those of you that are joining us today and didn't have a chance to catch up, I'm just going to invite Kelly just to give us a synopsis really of what we covered last time.
Yeah, so how are you, everybody? So just really briefly, attachment is something that we need through all our life. It's the way we relate to ourselves and others and the world. And we learn it from when we're children, and throughout our adult life, attachment patterns can change. And it's really about how we relate, our level of connection and intimacy with another. And we speak more on romantic relationships. So it's how comfortable we are with intimacy, how we may avoid it, and how maybe we feel we need to do more, or feel fear, rejection or abandonment, which can be more of an anxious style. And how we feel when we're not with them. Do we feel happy? Do we feel quite balanced and centered and secure when we're not with our partners, or even dating partners? Or do we feel we need more reassurance and validation that everything is okay? So yeah, it's a big exciting to kind of just explore this in a conversation style. And hand over to you, Geeta.
So really, I think I wanted to just invite each of us to take a moment to ground before we actually get into the conversation. So Davina's going to guide us into a bit of grounding.
Yeah.
Just take a moment to pause.
Yeah, Geeta brought with her this gorgeous candle. And I just felt drawn to hold it as we ground. And grounding is really just, as Geeta said, just taking a moment to pause, to breathe, and kind of land in the moment. So if it feels comfortable, if it feels good, if it's safe to do so, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze, and really just taking some deep breaths and just grounding into the moment. Just taking that little pause. And I feel like, probably because I'm with these ladies in person, but feeling like very grateful. So you might want to think of something maybe that you feel really grateful for today. I'm also grateful for the blue sky and the sun that I can see today. Feeling very joyous, actually. It feels really good to be with these ladies. Maybe you could think of something that you feel really joyous and grateful for this morning. Okay, I'll leave this candle going. It feels like unity today.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, just on that, I also feel incredibly grateful. We don't get to meet in person very often, do we? So it's a very special episode where we can have this conversation in person, and that's what it is. You're getting a window into a conversation, one of our many conversations that we have.
You were here last night.
Yeah, well, there might be some outtakes at some point, another time. So Okay, so back to the topic in hand.
Yeah, it's part of it, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's kind of like attachment styles and
It's
like as
everywhere.
Kelly was saying, like how we are with different people. Like as I said last night, the things that I shared, I couldn't share with everyone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of part of it, isn't it?
It is. It's how you show up in
Mm.
different spaces.
Yeah.
And one of the key things that we keep going back to is this whole thing of safety,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's who you're around, how safe you feel,
Mm.
how much you can reveal of yourself
Mhm.
in those spaces.
Yeah.
And so I'm like curious here because, you know, have you had, you know, having had time to reflect, and I'll start with you, Davina, if that's okay.
Mm.
Like, have you noticed, have you sort of tracked like your different attachment styles? So just to begin with, like, what sort of attachment styles have you had, and where are you at today?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know about attachment styles until about like a year ago. I hadn't heard of them. And then, so now in that reflection of understanding, I know that I grew up with an anxious attachment style. But when I say grew up, I would say all the way into my 30s, still with an anxious attachment style. But when I actually did like, you can do like a quiz kind of, did we send people to that?
There was the link,
There was a link, yeah. So-
Kelly put in,
Yeah, so if
in
you
each
might have
of
done
the
that,
things,
if anyone's done that, when I did it and it came up and said anxious, I was like, no, why has it come out to say that? No, I'm not. And until I'm reading through about it and then really thinking about my relationships, I could really see how it was an anxious attachment style. Because for me, I was very much like a, independent. I can do it myself. Like I don't really need anyone. That's what I was thinking. But that wasn't actually what was playing out in my relationships. I was very much people pleasing, making sure that everybody's okay. Like, is everyone okay with me? Not realizing that deep down that's because I'm afraid of abandonment, which would make me very anxious. So if anyone did their quiz and they were like, no, it's not me, like, why? Yeah, there's a deeper layer to look into. And then I would say now, I would say I'm becoming more secure. It's still a journey. I would say it's still a journey, but I'm very much now really trying to be aware of when I'm making decisions, maybe not for myself and for others, and why. Why am I making that decision for others and not for me? What do I think is going to happen if I choose myself and not someone else? So it's a journey. I'm really having to pick up when I do those things, taking a pause and thinking, okay, like what do you want to do here? What do you want to do next? What's the reason? Like, to really just giving myself a pause, because it's a default.
Yeah.
It's default to choose to put myself into a pretzel. It's a default for me to do that than it is to choose me first. So I'm having to really notice when that happens and choose myself. But I can say that when I do, the world doesn't cave in as I thought it might. It really doesn't. It really doesn't, and it feels really good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that, choosing yourself. What would happen?
What would happen?
Yeah. And Carla, what about yourself? What's the journey been like from style that you've had and where you are now?
So in terms of attachment styles, I've just started to read about it since our last episode, or before our last episode, because I didn't know much. I've heard about it, but never pay really attention to it. So I started to read, and I read a few books and started reflecting on the journey. And my conclusion is that I probably have all of them, or had throughout my life, all of them. When I was reading each one of the 4 attachment styles and some of the questions and some of the signs, I said, yeah, this is me, this is me, this is me, this is me. So my conclusion is, yeah, I've been through all of them eventually, and I still go through all of them as well, depending on situation, on who's the relationship with. I notice as well. I feel that, for example, I'm much more secure at work in terms of attachment styles. But in some personal relationships, I can see in some situations some of the 3 attachment styles that are not the secure, so the unsecure ones, depending on the situation as well, and the triggers of some of the situations. And when I started to read more as well, and because the attachment style is connected to some of your core beliefs, and one author that I read calls them core wounds, so wounds from your childhood, and because they are connected, there are still some triggers of some of the wounds that probably I thought they were healed, but sometimes the trigger just, oops, here it is. So I noticed in some situations, okay, I still in occasion have this attachment style. And from now on, so I'm not thinking of the journey of the past anymore. What I'm thinking now, since we've started to talk more about this ourselves, is looking forward. So the effort for me is to be aware, now that I know more about the attachment styles, each one of the attachment styles, now that I know in some situations there's triggers and I identify myself with all of them, basically, is when I'm on an unsecured attachment style, when I feel that I'm going on that way, it's being aware and move to a more secure one. So that's the next step for me. It's being aware when I'm onto it, when I'm there, and try to change it and move it to a more secure. But as you said, Divina, I believe it's going to be a journey. It's a journey. And I'm already 51, but it's still a journey.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, right? It's something, it's a pattern that we have for so many years, that to change it, it takes work. It takes time and work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. I love that. The pointing out around the wounds and the triggers, because that's all really connected, isn't it? Like how you shift and move between the different styles. What about yourself, Kelly? Because obviously you're...
I've had goodness, I think you only know what you know. That's what the first thing I would say. So what I recognize is I definitely would have been much more in the anxious attachment style for most my life, and it kind of manifested as elements of like Davina, people pleasing, elements of perfectionism, have to be a certain way to be accepted, to be loved, to belonged. But I also see huge shifts as well. So I think having a partner where you can develop and cultivate that secure attachment, because we're always learning about ourselves in relationship. So, even therapy is really about attachment, is being able to kind of be more vulnerable, be more intimate and experience yourself differently, that then override the fears that you think are there if you allow certain parts of yourself to be seen. So, and then you can take that out into the outside world. So I think for me, it's all about the cultivation of new relationships that allow those more vulnerable parts to be seen, really, basically. But what is really interesting, I did an exercise in uni, my psychotherapy uni, and we had to look at attachment styles from all the ages, from 0, you can't remember what you imagine, up until your present day. And what was really interesting, I really could see the difference or the heightened attachment styles in each part of my developmental life, and how it's kind of evolved and changed. But also my growth edge in the last 2 years have been being vulnerable and being more intimate and feeling secure in that was quite easy for me on a one-to-one. So in a kind of intimate relationship, because I could trust myself to know and discern how much I could show of myself and build that trust. But my growth edge over the last 2 years is being able to kind of do that within a group.
Yeah.
And that brought up so much for me. But I kind of made this intention, I know I'll be okay, I can find safety, because it's like we say, it's all about that safety. These patterns are not bad, they were just needed. It was just a means to know how to connect and feel belonged and feel safe. So it's no bad pattern, but obviously you don't get that fulfillment and richness if we don't try to cultivate that more secure pattern within ourselves. So, and he brought up lots of shame, kind of exposing myself and not being able to go, hey, how are they taking that? How are they taking that? And being able to be going, this is me. And I didn't get that kind of wobble of shame in the moment. It was delayed. So it's after I left, I went, oh my gosh, I said too much. Oh my gosh, I took up too much space. Oh my God, what did that person think? Oh, I'm not who they think I am. All these different kind of stories that were like, came from the roots, and they were making themselves shown because I was starting to kind of move into my growth edges to know that I can show more of myself and be okay.
But those were your stories, right? You created them because it was not the reality, or did you feel that it was real?
I think what I came to, I can't control what other people think. So, and this has been part of my way of being. So if I'm like this, then they think I'm okay. I've always been other focused. So and always being they're better than me, I'm less of. So and this is very of an anxious, avoidant people more in the avoidant tend to be I'm better, they're worse. So mine was I'm less, they're better. So now my view is more equality. We're all oneness. So you can't be, we're not better than each other. So it was allowing myself to go, I am okay even if other people don't like me.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it was still, and when I'm tired, when I'm a little bit stressed, I still can wobble.
Yeah.
So when I'm not eating well, or I'm sleeping well, I'm not exercising well, these are all the things that can put me back in my default. I'm like, I'm at that wobble. And it's because I'm just, I am from my grounding. But as soon as I kind of, as long as I'm looking after myself and just recognize, okay, this is just a wobble, this is an old pattern, it's okay. And then I can recenter myself.
Do you think, making me think there when you were talking, that we can be different, like you were saying, Carla, like different in different situations with different people. But do you think that that's warranted sometimes?
Yeah.
Like not everyone deserves all of your vulnerability all the time.
It's appropriateness as well, isn't it? Like, I think there's a level, is it? Like, having said that.
What did you do?
It's not what she did. Confession to the world. For life.
You say that, I'm going, oh, but it's a level of appropriateness. But I'm like thinking, I've had like the deepest conversations with people on the curbside.
With strangers.
With like someone I barely know.
Yes.
And like, deepest things
Yes.
have come out, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
How? Why?
But do you think that's like soul to soul?
Yeah,
I've had those moments, and
it's a different kind of experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not so much to do with the attachment style, it's more the energy and the
Agree with that
connection.
person.
Yeah.
It's when Kelly was saying, it's the word, that discernment, because sometimes, like you're saying, energy. So maybe when you're in a room, like Kelly was saying, she would like to be able to do it with a group, but maybe sometimes when you're in a room and you feel the energy, you're like, actually, this isn't the time for me to. It isn't safe, and maybe because it isn't, it may just not be safe for you to share that much in that space. But there'll be some groups that you would go to maybe where you're like,
I think that links though to like listening to your nervous system and not overriding it. So when when the signal comes up that there isn't a feeling of safety, listen to it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for cultivating, because a trauma bond can be as oversharing. So I think having that trust in yourself, that you can discern and keep yourself safe. But I think sometimes in my professional work, I find some people find it a bit easier to share when they haven't got an emotional connection with you. And so sometimes it's that too. And also I think it's that discernment, because everybody can hold differently. So in my own experiences, some relationships I could never share the whole of me because they haven't got that nervous system capacity to hold that vulnerability because they can't hold their own. So it's always this kind of relationship with just and cultivating the relationships that nourish you.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes we can just stay because it's familiar, but actually it's not allowing ourselves to experience the fullness of who we are. So it's almost like an invitation to go. It doesn't mean we discard relationships, but we can cultivate new ones. That's my experience anyway.
Do you think there's a way of, for maybe people who haven't tapped in or feel that that they can trust themselves yet, that there's a way to tell? So, you know, when you walk into a room and you'll feel something like Geeta saying and you feel it, so you trust it. How do we know that it's that and not maybe the thing that you had, Kelly, at the beginning where you just didn't feel like I could share myself in a group because I'm wondering what they think of me? Do you know what I'm saying? Like how you know the difference between my gut instinct and, or am I acting from my trauma?
Personally, what I would say, it depends on your pattern. So a lot of people disconnect from their own sensations, or they can be, what my experience was, I was more heightened with my sensations. So I think first of all, it's cultivating that awareness of you know, getting to know what your intuition feels like and what anxiety feels like, or what actually pulling away, avoidance feels like. And I think that one first step of understanding what they feel like within yourself gives you more information to understand what is happening. Because I generally, until I've done recent really deep work, I had no idea what shame really felt like. You heard the word shame cognitively, but when you actually feel it, oh my goodness, no wonder we run from it. You know, but it shapes your reality if you don't. But it's the most heaviest, yuckiest, like you want to vomit. So we, you know, unconsciously we're always trying to avoid that pain. We're trying to avoid it, which is understandable, but it shapes our reality. So I think it's about, even if it's just one person that everyone is different, but that one person where you're like, I don't know, I just something feels I can be a bit more open, but that open is going to be different for everybody.
And I would think for myself, like when you do have that real gut instinct, it's your intuition. I don't feel sick. I feel like I've honored myself.
Yeah.
Whereas the shame, like you say, may make you feel like, oh, sick. I kind of feel when I trust my intuition, I feel like this was right.
Yeah.
It just feels right.
I think you can take a bit of like trial and error though to get there, because to see how it goes.
How it goes for you.
You know, I can just remember points where, you know, I've overridden my own system, and then afterwards gone, oh, why did I do that? Like, why did I in a way like dishonor myself with that decision? And then, you know, just touching what you're saying, like that one person. And, you know, when I reflect and look throughout my life, there's been a huge amount of anxious attachment, people pleasing, fear of abandonment, you know, and I think there might be something to do with the way we were parented and where our parents, you know, our generation of parents and what they've been through. You know, I really sort of feel, and this is, you know, just genuinely like with conversations with other people, that we're a generation of breaking those patterns and actually just beginning to change all of this for those that come after us. And you were saying about that one person. So I can look back now and I can value all the relationships I've had and hold them with love, even if they were painful, for the lessons and for what they've brought to me. And it was one person initially who helped me to start to become more secure and they were absolutely amazing and they still are amazing at holding space for when I was in deep shame, and still can go in there, because that hasn't changed, you know, that can be there. And it's just been such a beautiful experience, especially over the last couple of years, and then having these kind of relationships, these women's circles particularly, you know, I'm very grateful I've got you guys, I've got my other sister circle, and it's those spaces where collectively, you know, we're becoming self-aware, aware amongst ourselves, and wanting to have these kind of conversations that are deepening the connections within ourselves and with each other, and then helps to sort of move into that more secure space. But it's still, you know, I don't know about any of you, but when you catch yourself, you know, you're sort of plodding along and you're feeling like pretty cool and like,
Yay.
you got this, and then someone or something
Something
comes along and you're like, but with that self-awareness, there's a lot more kindness and compassion with it.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, anyone got any sort of something funny that they could perhaps share, and an incident that maybe they can see themselves going down that rabbit hole of an attachment style that they think they had sorted. Have we ever got it sorted?
No.
No. And how did you then get yourself like move through that?
I think it comes back to something we were being touched on in these private conversations. I think we're all humans. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Not even the people that you watch on social media and think they've got it all together. No one's perfect. And I think it's about self-responsibility, number one, and because we can get into kind of cycles of blame. It's your fault, you did this, you made me think. So it's that rupture and repair that we touched on. So ruptures always happen. What I mean in ruptures is when we kind of disconnect, or we blame, or we move ourselves away from people. It's acknowledging that and what was my responsibility in this, and taking that responsibility, because the more we can create that repair, that is when relationships really deepen. Because we're meeting with vulnerability. So, and I generally, until about 2 years ago, I hadn't even heard of the words rupture and repair. And it's like, whoa. And you know, it's really important if you're a parent, and it's really important in intimate relationships, and it's important in all relationships, even in work relationships, because when you become aware of it, ruptures are always happening, even if they're subtle. And maybe if you're an anxious, you won't say anything. You'll just go, oh, I just want to make it better. Let's just move closer. And maybe if you're more of avoidance style, you'll go, oh, you did that again. You know, they can project outward, and then it just creates a mess. So where the secure pattern will tend to be more, even if you kind of get out of a line, you kind of can step back and go, okay, where was my responsibility in that? Take ownership of it, and then meet in that vulnerable space of repairing. So that for me is key.
I think you just saying that last night we were touching on like how, you know, well, for me in particular, I hadn't really seen what repair looked like until much later on in life, like good modeling of repair. And now it's just so like it's part of me. It's like if something happens, I really, you know, and interestingly, there's been a couple of things, because my life's really changed quite a lot in the last couple of years, where there has been rupture with, you know, certain people, and I've approached to ask for repair. The discomfort in them has pushed them further back. They don't want to. And that's fine. You know, there's no judgment from me about that, but it's just an interesting to witness that actually repair can feel so uncomfortable. And then what I've also witnessed in me is my ability to repair with certain people in my life who I thought I'd never be able to repair with. And actually the repair happens quite quickly now, like because there's a willingness, there's a want, there's a desire to do that. And you know, and just, you know, love the fact that our children can witness this and take this into their lives. So just on that note of like, you know, rupture and repair, you know, what has your experiences been like? Because obviously Kelly shared. I just wonder for like Carla, what about yourself?
In terms of rupture and
repair in your life?
I had a lot of ruptures, of course, throughout my life, but I also had repairs.
Yeah,
Beautiful ones. the biggest one for me was with my father a
Mm.
few years ago. That we always had a challenging relationship,
Mm.
but we were able to repair, both of us, and,
Mm.
and share beautifully. And yeah, it was a lovely, one, I would say, throughout my life, it was the most important repair that I had.
And how did that change, like, your attachment style with your father? I'm wondering, like.
Completely, because now now our relationship, I know it's secure in terms of how we deal with each other. We trust, so I know that he loves me. He knows that I love you. We admire each other. We forgave whatever we had to forgive, and we have a beautiful relationship now.
Mm.
And that was one of the relationships I would say probably I would never be able to repair, because it was hard. But we did. And once you repair it, it's interesting, because I sometimes thought, oh, we don't need to repair. We just can continue with our lives, right? We don't just move on. I'm strong. I can do it. I don't need that person, wherever. But as soon as you have that repair, it's amazing how inside of you something changes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a weight that you had in your shoulders just removed, and it becomes lighter, and you just move ahead better and better. So, and not only that one, but all the relationships, work, wherever, that I had to repair, I had the same feeling. It's like something was missing, something was not right. And once you repair it, it's just the peace that you get, and that relationship becomes so much better from the repair. Something just switches, and it's worth it. The repair is worth it. It's not easy to do it though, because you need the courage.
Yeah.
Both sides, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Both sides. Yeah.
Need courage, and sometimes someone needs to start it, right? Someone needs to have the courage and just go, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's do it, because it's hard. Sometimes the pain comes to the surface. Some situations come, and it's just being open, having the courage to. And what I've noticed, but this is what I believe it's really important in every relationship, independent of attachments, is you need to be willing to be there and listen, to understand the other side. Because if you just listen with your own lens of what you think is the right or the wrong, or it's right or it won't work. You need to listen, understand the other side as well, being open to other possibilities. That person has a different view, different lens from yourself, right? And it's just being open to that. And once you both have a similar understanding, and you are open to each other, and you understand, you might not accept it, right? You might say, okay,
it's holding the difference.
It's accepting that there's different perspectives, different ways of being, different beliefs, right? Different views, different opinions. And we can still live, we can still love each other, we can still have a good, an amazing friendship with people that have completely different views, perspectives. And that's the journey that I've been, and I still am, because you were talking about funny situations, right? And I still have them. And for example, with my son, we still have funny situations where we are having a conversation, and he starts with his own views and ideas, and I start to tell him, what are you doing? No way. And then I start to think, no. Just listen to understand and have a proper conversation. Don't just say, that's wrong. Just have a proper conversation, have a more secure attachment style. And those still happen, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because
you hear yourself, especially with your child, you start going down this rabbit hole, you're like, I don't want to be that parent. It's like, it's not the relationship I want with them. You start backtracking.
But it's funny because it happens frequently. He's 18 now, and with ideas that sometimes I don't. They are not mine. But there's the willingness to say, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But it's listening, understanding, and trying to have a different way of communicating.
Yeah.
That it's not so saying that's right, that's wrong.
Mm.
So that still happens, but it's again a journey, right? A journey.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
So what I'm really hearing is like being able to really, in terms of even like rupture repair relating, it's when you really feel like when you can do that kind of repair that you described with your dad, it's almost like what I was seeing in my mind as you were speaking. It's like the veil has dropped and you really get to like see
the person.
the other person as a human being beyond all of the emotional baggage and attachments that have come, and really hear one another. And that's the beauty in it, isn't it? It's like it's not this, as you say, like you did this, da, da, da. It's like you're a human being, I am one, and we are doing our best here. I see you and I hear you.
That's not always easy, right?
No.
And I know some people, and I have some conversations in coaching and in other settings where I hear people saying, I can't forgive what that person did because it's not forgivable. It's not, and I understand that as well, right? It's just, it's hard. And some people have really hard, painful experiences, either to them or to their family members, children, whatever, and they can't forgive. And I sometimes when I think if someone did something to my son, for example, I would think, oh, would I be able to forgive that person? And then I listen to stories where someone killed the son, and the parent comes and says, "I forgive you," and I just, wow, could I do that? You know, it's so there's.
I think we need an episode about that actually, forgiveness, because I have a
huge one.
I have another view on that. I don't know what time it is.
But we're only time. That's a different episode. The forgiveness part.
But forgiveness is, I think, is a really interesting one, because it's what we carry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is why I think forgiveness isn't actually for the other person, but it's for us.
For yourself.
Yeah.
It is for yourself.
Because,
And the question now that we talk, I know we need to end, but hold on just a few more minutes. Do you think that to be able to have a secure attachment style and we need to forgive?
but not for them, for you.
Yeah. Well,
Can
For me.
it be, I suppose for me, it is another topic for another time for sure. But for me, there's a difference between forgiveness and condoning people's behavior.
Yeah.
There's a complete difference. So you can have a forgiveness for their humanness,
And
but you don't condone the behavior.
but you don't forgive the behavior. You just forgive the person, the human being.
the humanness within the person, in that moment. They
Wherever.
did something horrific,
Yeah.
but I could never. You don't have to condone what they
No.
did. You don't have to have a relationship with them.
No.
Yeah.
But almost like the forgiveness just gives you a bit of a sense of peaceness, and that can be rattled when we carry that pain. We can always kind of pain, but that real kind of that anger and that you just carry, and it disrupts your own life. But I don't think it's anything. It's something that is so subjective. It comes in your own pace, at your own time. It's not something that can be rushed. But yeah, I just kind of leave it there because it is a topic. It's a big topic,
Totally
but there's a difference
topic.
between forgiveness for me and condoning someone's behavior. I don't know if that.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, but I agree. Yeah.
And just to round that bit part off, like forgiveness doesn't always have to be done face to face either.
No.
So just to put that
People that have died as well. People who have died and you haven't had a chance to. You can still do. You can still have that moment of forgiveness, which is again why I think it's not about the other person. It's about you.
Well, guys, we could
keep going.
as ever, we could go on for a long time, but we're going to have to wrap up. So I just want to go around and ask each of you, what is the one key takeaway or piece of advice that you'd give our listeners on their journey to understanding or improving their attachment style? One key takeaway.
If you haven't already, like do the link and actually just find out about them, or and then I would kind of just say sit with it. Like read them all and sit with it, and just have a think about your relationships, and does that ring true for you? And then maybe think about the next step. But first, just like have a bit of compassion for yourself. Not like me that was like when I started. Have some compassion for yourself. But yeah, find out and then sit with it and just have a think.
Yeah, I would agree with that one on you. That's what I would say. Just don't think that it's right or wrong if you have one or the other. There's no right or wrong. That it just is, and that's it. So don't attach right, wrong to any of it. Have compassion with yourself. Take care of yourself when you are going through the journey. Yeah, but I would say don't attach good, bad, I'm good, I'm bad. No, it just is. Whatever it is. It's not good or bad. It's just what it is.
Yeah, I would just remind people that when we speak about attachment, it's not a definition of who you are. It's just a pattern that we've had to adapt to be able to feel safe and as we can in different dynamics. So that's number one, I would say. And for people who maybe when they start to explore, I would say people that feel I actually a bit more avoidant, then just to remember that is a lot to do with trusting people, and it's the avoidance is really about shielding yourself to protect yourself from any pain. So really having compassion for that, and just learning like how can I just be a little bit more in touch with my own emotions, and start with maybe with yourself if it feels too much, or even just starting to go rather than I think, starting to see if you can change how I feel. And then with anxious people who feel much more in that kind of anxious attachment, it's really recognizing the need and being able to kind of with a if it's another partner or even a friend, is being able to kind of being able to voice I feel I need, and starting to be able to articulate that and being able to hold when people maybe don't meet your needs and recognizing but I'm still okay, but I still can voice it. So that's why my challenge on my stretch would or an invitation would be, and just saying with communication is massive. So if you are with a partner and you're recognizing I'm anxious, he's avoidant, which is very common, is recognizing communication is massive, not blaming, and even when things erupt, is giving yourself what you need and trying to kind of come back together when things are calm, because nothing will happen when you're both acting from survival. You'll just more fire will just immerse. So yeah, trying to recognize when things are erupting, moving away, and then trying to re-meet when things are calmer.
Wow.
What about you, Geeta?
I was just thinking, like, because you've covered a lot, and I think I just capture it as this is your, finding out the attachment styles that you might have had in the past or are now is the journey of self-awareness, self-reflection, self-responsibility. And along that journey is to really bridge that space to self-trust as well, and loving yourself.
Yeah, self-love.
Yeah. Finding out your attachment style is part of the building blocks to self-trust and self-love. And that's what I would say.
Place to end.
Wow, that's a lot today.
45 minutes. Yeah.
So what I would just say is, if you are watching today and you're wondering, like, I'm watching this is great and I don't know what attachment styles are, go back to our YouTube channel, watch episode 5, because today's episode 6, And there's a link there to the quiz that you can do as well if you're not sure what your style is. Yeah, so subscribe, like, all that shenanigans.
Share.
Keep watching, comment.
Ask us questions.
Yeah, we'd happily answer as
Yes.
well as we can, or go away and find out.
Yeah.
But join us in 2 weeks' time on 14th of June, where the topic is what happens when you change, but your environment doesn't.
Yeah.
I won't be.
Juicy. Sabine will be on a
I'll be on a
plane,
plane.
but you'll have the
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We'll be
Alright.
there.
And I want to just blow this out.
Yeah.
The light. It feels like it symbolizes that we see the light in you too.
Oh, and it's white.
Mm.
Beautiful white.
Thank you, everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Well, you can continue to speak. I'm ending the stream. Bye, everyone.